The first thing I noticed that morning wasn't the birds or the sunrise, or even the breeze slipping over my fence, but the way the air felt, charged and wrong, like a silent alarm going off under my skin. You ever get that sense that something's off before you even open your eyes? That was me standing there in my robe, coffee in hand, blinking at an empty driveway, where my Mustang, my one real indulgence in life, should have been. And all I saw was this busted lock hanging from my gate, swinging like the world's saddest Christmas ornament, and I just stood there letting it all hit me one heartbeat at a time. Now, don't get me wrong, I live in one of those neighborhoods, the kind all curated charm and HOA newsletters where everybody knows your business before you do. So when I realized my car was gone, the first face I saw peeking over the hedge was Mrs. Whitaker Pearl's, and all like she was auditioning for some kind of sitcom about nosy neighbors. She had this look, this little smirk tucked right behind her. "Good morning." Like, was she happy my car was missing or just relieved it was my drama and not hers for once? Either way, I muttered something under my breath that wasn't exactly neighborly, gripped the fence post and tried not to look like I was about to lose my mind right there on the spot. And then just to make sure I didn't forget who was running the show, here comes Mrs. Whitaker walking over with that parade walk of hers, pearls clicking like tiny warnings. "Lovely day for a stroll, isn't it?" she chirped, eyes darting to my empty driveway. I said, "Well, someone stole my car. You think Harold had a hand in it?" And let me tell you, her smile didn't twitch. Not even a little. Oh, Harold, he wouldn't dare. Probably just a mix-up. A mix-up. I could feel my jaw clench. Cut my lock and took my car isn't a misunderstanding. But she just shrugged like she'd seen it all before and wasn't about to break a sweat now. So I called the cops like anybody would, and the dispatcher sounded like I'd interrupted her mid-lunch, another neighbor dispute. Huh? By the time Officer Kane rolled up, I was wound tight as a watch spring. He looked at the busted lock, then at me, then back at the lock, and I could read it on his face. This wasn't his first rodeo with our block. "Did anyone see Harold?" he asked, taking notes. "He was out here fiddling with tools, but I didn't think anything of it," I told him. And he just nodded real calm, like he was writing the end of my story before I'd even started. Then he hit me with, "Technically it's a civil matter if the car comes back undamaged. Maybe get a restraining order." A restraining order. Over my Mustang, my mornings, my sanity. I walked away coffee, stone cold head buzzing with all the ways this could blow up when I turned the corner, and there he was, Harold, leaning against the hood of my Mustang, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. I stopped dead. There's a special kind of anger when you see someone with your stuff, and Harold had it all swagger charm and the world's most punchable smirk. "Morning," he called out as if we were old friends meeting at a car show. That's when I realized I wasn't just missing a car. I'd been dropped into some kind of neighborly war, and I hadn't even seen the first shot fired. That night, I tossed and turned, watching shadows move across the ceiling, Mustang-shaped holes in my peace of mind. The next morning, I swapped coffee for adrenaline and marched over to Harold's porch, heart pounding, ready to throw down if I had to. He was there, of course, tinkering with my stereo, like he was doing me a favor. "Harold," I barked, barely keeping my cool, "give me my car back." "Now." He looked up, all casual. "It's complicated, neighbor. Complicated. Cutting my lock and taking my car isn't complicated, it's theft." He just leaned back, all relaxed, and said, "Well, I got friends who know the law. Don't worry, it's handled. You ever want to jump out of your own skin?" That was me. And then, he's auditioning for the role of villain in a daytime drama. Harold just shrugs. Let's just say arrangements were made. I do my thing, you do yours. Everyone walks away happy. I could feel the blood pounding in my ears. Happy for who? Because I'm not smiling. And right then, Mrs. Whitaker's laugh floated over sharp and cold, like she'd been waiting for the encore. Harold didn't care, just tapped my car like it was some priceless artifact and tells me to relax. DA likes quiet deals. Move on, you'll see. Move on. I wanted to scream. You think a secret handshake with the DA means you get away with this? He shrugs again. Classic Harold. It's not what you think. Reality's messy. Messy. That's a word for it. I backed away, feeling the walls of my world tilt. Because right then it was clear there's a game going on here, one I wasn't invited to, and the rules were being rewritten in real time. I was furious, helpless, but somewhere in there a switch flipped. If Harold thought this was over, he hadn't seen me with my back against the wall. Then my phone buzzed. No name, just a number and a text. Meet me tonight. We need to talk alone. Sounds like something out of a bad spy movie, but when you've got nothing left to lose, you go. The city was all shadow and neon as I pulled up to this little cafe that looked like it hadn't seen business since the 90s. Harold stepped out of the gloom. None of that bravado, just this tired, haunted look. You came, he muttered. Good. I wanted to ask why I wanted to yell, but all I managed was, what is this? Inside the place smelled like burnt coffee and old secrets. He sat down, looked me dead in the eye, and started talking. It was never supposed to get this far. The DA wanted leverage. That's all. I cut a deal to protect myself, but it got out of hand. There are people who think they're untouchable. I leaned back, trying not to sound as skeptical as I felt. But come on, who steals a neighbor's car to protect themselves? He slid a thick envelope across the table, names, numbers, a whole mess of information. You can fix this, but you have to be smart. Push the wrong way, you bring the whole house down on both of us. I stared at the envelope, feeling like I was holding a live grenade. So what, you want me to just trust you? He nodded, not looking happy about it. Trust me enough to do this right. I took that envelope home, didn't sleep a wink, just sat there watching dawn creep through the blinds. This wasn't about a car anymore. This was about who really pulled the strings on our street and how far I was willing to go to get my life back. The next day, plan in hand, I drove Mustang or no Mustang to the DA's office every mile a dare. I must have looked like hell because the receptionist barely blinked when I walked in. Miss Harper came a voice sharp and official, and I followed her back to an office where the DA waited, all calm power and cold eyes. I laid it all out, envelope documents, every twist of this neighborhood chess game. For a long moment he just stared, then said, Interesting, but you've got leverage. We can undo this deal, but it'll take guts and perfect timing. Can you handle that? And I realized I could. I had to. When I got home, the Mustang was right there in my driveway, sunlight glinting off the hood, like nothing had ever happened. Harold stood on his porch, looking like he'd aged a decade overnight. I walked up, keys dangling from my fingers. Your car's back where it belongs, I said, steady as I could manage. Harold's jaw tightened. We had a deal, he muttered. No, I shot back. You had a deal. I just renegotiated. Mrs. Whitaker popped up behind her rose bushes, pearls rattling, eyes wide as if she'd just seen a ghost. I waved, gave her a little grin, and slid into the Mustang engine, roaring windows down, the kind of freedom you don't appreciate until it's almost snatched away. Harold slunk inside, door slamming, and for the first time in weeks I felt right. Not just because the car was back, but because I'd stood my ground. Sometimes the win isn't about the law or about making everyone else happy. It's about not letting someone else write the end of your story. As I rolled down the street, Mustang's engine singing my victory to the whole neighborhood, I caught my own reflection in the rear view. And I smiled, big, real, and probably a little smug. Let the HOA gossip. Let the heralds of the world stew. Because this time, I won. And I can't help but wonder, how far would you go to stand up to a neighbor who pushes too far, or an HOA that thinks the rules don't apply to them? So if you've ever had your own showdown with a Harold or a Mrs. Whitaker, or maybe you're just here for the ride, hit that subscribe button. Share your stories down in the comments. Let's see whose HOA tale tops the charts. Smash that. Like if you think justice, even when it comes on 4 wheels, is the sweetest kind. Thanks for riding along, and don't let anybody steal your story.